Hello everyone, welcome to another installment of our FIFA 22 Tactics series. This is the series where I'll show you how to recreate real systems in FIFA 22. My name's Ash. You will know me as Brommer18. If you're new to the channel, welcome along. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you once again for rejoining us for another installment. Today, we are looking at David Moyes' West Ham tactics. Of course, massively overachieving as of recording this. Finished in the European spot last year and I'm enjoying a good time in Europa League. So, this should be a good one. Just a quick notice before we do get into it and I'll talk to you about the tactics and so on and so forth. Do go and check out my Patreon. The link to that is in the description. On there, you can get access to a range of different perks and rewards, including my FIFA 22 custom tactics package, where I'll give you a breakdown and deep dive on every tactic we do cover on the channel, including overall thoughts, rankings, ratings. You've also got suitable traits and attributes for each position and pros and cons for the tactic, as well as an overall custom rankings board ranking every single tactic. Range of different perks, access to a Discord server, early access to videos, all sorts of different stuff. Do go and check that out. Link to that is in the description. On that note, let's get into this. So we're having a look at Moyes' West Ham, and what we're going to do here is, first things first, I'll talk to you about the formation, then we'll go into the tactics, and then I'll look at the player instructions. On top of that, I will also show you a defensive and attacking game plan and how the formation and tactics are adapted and change a little bit depending on the system. So if you need to push and press the game a bit more, you can do that, and what happens when they're looking to really see out the game in the final few minutes or so on and so forth, really trying to hold on to a lead, how does that change defensively? So we'll look at that as well. So first things first, with the formation, you want the 4-2-3-1 wide. And in this case, unlike other videos, we actually don't have any position changes. You've got the 4-2-3-1, the flat 4-2-3-1, not going to have the wingers as wingers this time, rather as left and right midfielders, because it's going to enable them to track back a little bit more and play that more defensive role that they do. In this case, you've got a tactic that is a little bit more defensively minded, they're a bit more robust, and play a little bit more on the counter-attack. And a lot of you guys have been asking for a counter-attacking tactic for ages. I'd say this is, one of the first. So do bear that one in mind. Coming on to the tactics then. First things first, defensively, we've got pressure on heavy touch. And what this is going to do is it's generally going to make your team bed back in, regain their shape, keep their shape, and form back into that mid-block that we'll talk about very shortly. But what they'll do occasionally is, say if it's played into the midfield, if there's misplaced passes, etc., they will then instigate a press, and it's usually the likes of Antonio up front or one of the wingers like Bowen or Ben Rama who will instigate that press. But what it's going to do generally is it's going to mean they're going to form that block, so it is going to create quite a defensive shape with regards to the depth as well, which we'll come on to now. The depth is on 40, which is going to give you a mid block. It's a lower end mid block because it's 40 and not, say, 60, but it is that mid block, and that's a really good way to keep that solid defensive team shape, but still have a little bit of emphasis on a press with that mid block as well. With the defensive width, this is on 10, which means it's going to make your team really compact. A general principle of play is when defending, you want to be narrow to prevent the opposition playing through you and lots of gaps forming. A lot of people talk to me in the comment section of these videos about how it's leaving them open on the wings, but that's okay because the opposition can't hurt you from the wing. At some point, it's got to come inside, and when it does, all of a sudden, you've got this real compact, lots of bodies in there. It's tough to really play through them. So this is on 10. Offensively, with build-up play, which is what's going to happen in the opening half, the defensive half, it's unbalanced. And what you're going to have there is on goal kicks, you might have a centre-back coming short, so it'll give you that option. But then you're going to have more players spreading out a little bit more. It gives you a bit of versatility, and that's what you find with West Ham. Sometimes they'll play out. They're not totally anti-possession, and Moyes isn't that guy. He does have that value on possession, but he appreciates that sometimes you got to go a little bit longer. You play the intermediate or the long passing game, and this is what that builds into. With chance creation, however, forward runs, and this is what's going to give you an emphasis on the counter-attack, because you're going to get a lot of players like Antonio, like the wingers, really running in behind, using lots of movement, and it's going to give you that emphasis on the counter attack. So you're going to get that nice variation again between a team who might play it long to Antonio. We'll talk about his instructions later on, or then trying to play in behind as well and utilise their pace. Width is up to 68. This is going to give you pretty much the widest option in the balance without it going too wide. Once it goes to 70, you'll notice that the description of it changes, because then you've got a really wide team. The reason why we don't have this up into that real wide attacking area is because you don't actually want the wingers on the touchline, and that's what this is really going to do. You want them a little bit closer inside, offering a passing option, because then it's going to create space for the fullbacks to overlap more, and that's very important. You're going to get a lot of give and goes between the fullbacks and the wingers, and a lot of overlapping from the fullbacks. So as a result, at 68, this is the highest it can be in the balanced area. Well, it can be on 69, but I'm a bit superstitious and it has to be on an even number. Next up with players in the box, this is up to 7. And you can get 3 or 4 players in the box with this. And that's very important because they do cross a lot of balls in. You've got targets like Antonio, like Thomas Souček as well, coming into those areas. That's a very important part of the game. In fact, we do, of course, score from across in this game as well with Antonio, if you have been looking at the gameplay. So that again is vitally important, particularly someone like Thomas Souček. If you can try and get him into those areas as much as possible, you know, he's an absolute physical specimen, isn't he? He's really good in those areas, so he can do something along those lines as well. And finally, with corners and free kicks, both of these are up to 4. Again, trying to replicate them getting players into the box because they're so good from those set-piece situations. They're quite a tall and strong team as well. The likes of Souček, for example, as well as others, Rice, Antonio, the centre-backs, etc. You've got a lot of players there. And so as a result, that's playing to your strengths. You're trying to get a lot of players into the box, and then you can really cause a threat from those corner situations. Right then, that's it for the tactics. Let's talk about the instructions before we come on to the altering game plan. Starting off with Lucas Fabianski, the keeper. We've got him on come to crosses to try and relieve the pressure off the centre-backs and the defenders as much as possible in those crossing situations. But in terms of saving outside the box, it's unbalanced. And with them playing a low mid block, you won't really find him having to come out as much because there are going to be less balls played in behind. There's less space for him to run into. So it's unbalanced, and he's going to be a little bit more conservative in that area. With the 2 centre-backs, they're absolutely fine. You don't need to change anything with these. Very much just filling that role of those generic basic centre-backs in these sort of systems. And then with the fullbacks, as we've already alluded to, you're going to want them overlapping and creating a lot of width. So attacking runs is join the attack, and then run type is overlap. And it's the same for both Soufal and also Aaron Cresswell in this case. Some things that we do in these videos that I haven't done today is change these to wing backs to try and get them wider and stuff and a bit further forward. We haven't done that in this video because naturally it is still a relatively defensive system, so you have to bear that in mind. You don't really want these getting too far forward and then being caught out a little bit in the defensive transition. So we keep them at flat fullback, and it will just make that a little bit easier. So on to the defensive midfielders next. We've got 2 different roles here for Rice and Souček. So we'll talk about Declan Rice first. With defensive behaviour, he's on cut passing lanes, and that's really going to be sort of theme throughout the entire team, is that they're trying to stop the opposition from playing by marking the spaces and the lanes rather than going man to man. You know, Rice and Souček obviously very physically dominating, but pace wise, if they're coming up against faster midfielders, it'll be tougher to really follow them around and mark them. So cut passing lanes is ideal for them. With attacking support, he's on stay back while attacking. Now, what you find with Declan Rice often is that he'll drop into the defence to try and pick up the ball, and then they'll try and play through him and he'll instigate attacks. So you could have replicated that with drop between the defenders. However, the reason why we've not gone for that is because when the ball is further up the pitch, and say at West Ham are attacking, and then there's a transition, what you find with Rice is that he will then support the attacking play. What he does there is he acts as like a possessional pivot. If he's on drop between the defenders, he'll form a back 3 and he'll be a little bit too deep, and it'll be harder for him to act as that pivot because he's not a little bit further forward to do that role. So as a result, stay back while attacking recreated his role a little bit better. You'll still be able to play out from the back because we've got him on this positioning freedom, free roam. That means he's going to drift around in lots of pockets of spaces, showing a passing option, and he does help you to try and play through him in that area. With defensive position, it's on cover centre. Because you've got the two wing backs, well, fullbacks and wingers tracking back, and you should have the wings covered, it means you don't really want Rice or Souček, for that matter, drifting out and being dragged out wide. You can really fill out the centre areas, and as a result be more compact and be more solid in those places, not having as much space for the opposition to play through you. So we spoke about how Souček's role is a little bit different, and we'll come on to him now. He's more of a box-to-box midfielder, so he's still on passing lanes and he's still on cover centre as well, so that's exactly the same. With attacking support, however, he's on get forward. We spoke about how, you know, he scores a lot of goals, he gets into those positions, particularly in crossing situations, so that's what we're trying to replicate. We want him getting forward, getting into the box quite often. He's got great stamina, so he is able to do it to an effective degree, and as a result you can get the best out of him that way. With positioning freedom, he's on stick to position. He's obviously not replicating that role of Declan Rice where you're really trying to get him into lots of spaces. Here he'll just generally play that central midfielder role, and you don't really need him moving about too much in that sense. Next up then, with the attacking midfielders, we'll start with the wingers. I think we will. With Jarrod Bowen and Benrahma, you've actually got the same roles here. So defensive support is come back on defence. That's fairly obvious. You want them tracking back as much as possible, and that's how you're going to have an effective counter-attacking system. With chance creation, it's cut inside, and what this is going to do, as we've alluded to already, is it's going to create the space for the fullbacks to overlap if and when they need to. So as a result, you're really condensing the opposition, because their fullbacks are hopefully going to track your wingers, in which case then you create space for the fullbacks. On top of that, you've also got the likes of Jarrod Bowen, who is obviously on his inverted foot. You know, he's a left-footed player on the right wing. So as a result, you're going to get him into those situations more. You know, we score a goal in this game because of the fact that he comes in onto his left foot and he's dangerous in that area. So you're really also trying to get the best out of those wingers if and when you can. Support runs, however, is unbalanced, and what this is going to do is it's going to give you nice variation between them running in behind and also coming short, showing for the pass as much as possible. Meanwhile, on to support on crosses, both of them are actually unbalanced support on crosses, and what you hope that this is going to do is that because they're unbalanced, they're not going to be getting in there all the time, which means it's going to mean that Souček is more likely to get into the box of the cross, and that's very important. You're trying to get him into those situations, so as a result, with him on get forward, it does help that area as well. So next up then, with the attacking midfielder, in this case for Niles, we have him on comeback on defence, again tracking back if and when he needs to, and then support on crosses is on getting to the box for the cross. So with the wingers only on balanced, they'll be potentially supporting the outer areas of the box, as will Declan Rice as well, which means he has a little bit more licence to get into the box. Now obviously in this case not as much of a threat from crosses, but he can pick up loose balls, anything like that, any sort of cutbacks, low cross, etc. He's another target in the box, so that's very, very helpful as well. With positioning freedom, he's on drift wide, and what this is going to do is it's going to create a lot of movement, because you've got the wingers cutting inside, he might drift wide. Again, it's a problem for the opposition, because all of a sudden you've got these swapping movements and these positions altering, and as a result there's a lot more running around. Do they track? Do they stick to their zonal areas? And that's really good as well. You're going to help to get him into the game more, rather than when he's really a basic cam and he's just staying into that position. Next up then, round off the team with Mikel Antonio. Support runs is balanced. Occasionally he can drift out wide if and when he needs to. Again, you just want him leading the line, and that's what he does so well. He just spearheads that line as well as possible, as much as he possibly can. And part of that is with the attacking runs as well. It's on target man. Now you might be wondering, how do we get him to run in behind when he's on target man? Because obviously in this case they'll be backing into the opposition centre back, their opponent, you know, showing for the ball. Well, it's actually from the tactics. You know, with us having forward runs on, that means that occasionally he's also going to run in behind as well, and that's really how we're able to create the third goal when Mikel Antonio scores. So that's how you get the best out of him. I find it really helped to recreate his role almost completely accurately, to be honest, as did defensive support. Stay forward. He's going to be that out ball when you need to go long, you're defending, you want to hit teams quickly. He's there ready to hold the ball up, and then you've got wingers and the attacking midfielder running in and playing in beyond him as well. So then, That rounds it off for the base tactic. Now let me quickly talk to you about the differing game plans. We have one defensive and one attacking as well. So with defensive, what happens when they're really trying to shut up shop and see the game out? Well, with the tactics, you'll see that the depth this time drops to 28, and what that's going to do is going to give you a low block. It is almost just completely passive. And it is also the same with defensive style as well. This time it's on drop back rather than pressure on heavy touch. Again, really trying to see out the game. You're going to find just an extremely defensive block here, and it's going to be very hard for the opposition to play through you. With the width still on 68, but players in the box this time has gone down, this time to 5, which means rather than maybe 4 players in the box, you've got between 2 and 3. Again, it's about just not committing as many men forward, trying to play it safe as much as possible. With the corners and free kicks, these time they're on 3, so you've still got a few players in there, but you've got another one staying back and really providing that protection for any counter attacks as well. As for the instructions on the defensive, there's a couple of changes. With the fullbacks, this time you'll notice the attacking runs have changed. They were on join the attack on the base one, but this time it's just balanced, which means they're sometimes going to commit, but sometimes they'll stay back. Again, trying to be more pragmatic, and as a result, not committing completely and leaving spaces in behind for the opposition. It's also the same for the attacking midfielder as well. This time he's on stay on the edge of the box rather than getting to the box of crosses, and as a result, he's going to be providing a little bit more protection on the edge of the box, and it means that he's not going to be leaving space to be exploited by the opposition. Again, just generally trying to be more pragmatic. So that's it for the defensive side. What about on an attacking game plan where they're trying to chase a game a little bit more? Well, if we have a look in the tactics here, you'll see this time the depth has gone up to 70, giving you a slightly higher line, and you've also got a different defensive style. This time it's on press after possession loss. Also worth noting that on the D-pad, if you press down then left on the D-pad, that will instigate a team press for a short amount of time. You'll also want to do that quite a bit as well to try and get that press going even when you haven't just lost possession. Again, trying to put it on the opposition. With the players in the box, it's moved up. This time it's up to 8, so you're going to get 4, maybe even 5 moving into the box. And then corners and free kicks, all of these are boosted up to 5 to really try and put as many men as possible in the area. What you can also do, which I haven't really had to do recently, but they do it occasionally, is when they're really chasing the game and there's a few minutes to go, is that they'll get one of the centre backs to go forward and play as a striker, just try and lump it up to them. And in this case, you can do that as well. You can choose whichever one, really. I would probably go with Zuma just because they're a little bit more stronger than Ogbonna, and it might help you in those situations. But that's something that you can also do as well for an attacking game plan. So that's about it then for the tactic then, guys. A fun tactic to play with. Nice to have more defensive ones for a change. Everyone keeps asking me for defensive tactics, and we finally got one, and it's a pretty decent one as well. One that I did enjoy playing with, I have to say. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and ring the bell so that you get notifications every time I upload, as well as subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to check out my Patreon. The link to that is in the description, where you can get access to my FIFA 22 custom tactics packages, as well as the Discord server, early access to videos, access to the Brahma blog, access to my PES 21 tactics package, behind the scenes videos, all that good stuff. There are links in the description also to my Twitter, give me a follow on there, as well as my second channel, Brahma Ball, where we cover Football Manager 2022. On top of that, there are affiliate links where you can get access to all of my gear, my equipment, my gaming PC, custom build parts. It does give the channel a little kickback, and it is a great way to support without paying any more. On that note, we're going to round it off there. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you soon.